Welcome to this week's episode. Let's firstly start with an apology, Rick. I think you need to address the supporters out there. The excuse you gave me was Mateo's vaccine shots. But let's be honest, it was probably more around that horrible loss to Port Adelaide. You've missed this week. You've been a shell of yourself.
Yeah.
Can you just address the fan base first?
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, I just didn't want to talk about it after that loss to Port Adelaide. So yeah, I made excuse after excuse not to sit this meeting, and I was hoping not to bring it up, but that's all right. It is what it is. Let's move on. We've got to win this week.
And
Let's talk about that.
well, I was going to say, yeah, look, you probably thought it was going to be several more weeks to delay, probably even past Anzac Day, past Adelaide. You were probably looking towards West Coast going,
Yeah.
can I delay the podcast with my baby?
Yeah.
How long can I push the deadline out? But no, you are right. We're recording this week because Essendon's actually won. Gold Coast have actually won. So we've missed we've missed a week, but what a win. What a weekend for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with your boys because obviously you played first. Surprising result, but tell me about it.
Yeah. Oh, look, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a good upset, but heart was in the mouth for the better part of 3 quarters. I think up until half time, we were just playing our typical game and, making simple mistakes. And I think, Bulldogs did the best that they could to capitalize on those opportunities. I think Davey had a missed handball in the middle and they scored a goal from it. McGrath had a shank and they scored a goal from it. So it was good to see the second half come out and be a little bit more refined. And then ultimately in that last quarter, we really opened up the floodgates and I think kicked 6 unanswered goals and then they kicked a couple. So to get the win by, I think it was 4 or 5 goals in the end, or 5 or 6 goals, whatever it was, it's an awesome effort, especially against a team that, with what's his name? Oh, who's up? Waitman, him in the forward line and that delivery that comes through the middle with Bontempelli and Libba, they could have very easily teared us apart, very easily. So to get the win was an awesome result. So,
Yeah, well, that was the big thing coming out of it was that Bontempelli just was shut down by Durham, and I think it's probably that underused role of that tagger to make sure their best player doesn't get off the hook. But Bontempelli for them probably adds 3 goals, and you're right. If he's helped more earlier in the game, you guys probably don't have that confidence to put 6 on to then put it out. But you're right, to be able to really put the foot down, win with authority, a couple of junk time goals to Bulldogs, but it was I wouldn't say it was a dominant performance. Like I was looking before at the stats and basically like the disposals were the same, inside 50s were the same, your disposal efficiency was the same, marks inside 50 were the same, shots on goal were the same, and intercepts were the same. So you guys sort of played a really even game. But then you had better goal kicking and you guys kicked really well. Like 15-6 is a great result compared to their, 9-13.
Yeah.
And then you had more kicks to their more handballs and you had more marks. So you were clearly using the footy better. And for the same amount of efficiency, for the same amount of disposals, to have more kicks shows that you were using the ball better, getting it a bit longer, making it a bit more dangerous. And yeah, I thought you guys played really well. And to be honest, I was pretty surprised by that. But I thought after the Dogs absolutely towed us up that they would sort of get their season back on a roll and get it sort of chugging along. But there seems to be a lot of teams just up and down each week. And yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, I think for us, it helped that we had a couple of younger guys step up. Like Dersma, obviously, like you said, really, really good game. Caldwell played out of his skin. And obviously Merritt just does what he does best every week. For them, I think Treloar was their highest disposal getter. And his efficiency was quite good. And like I said, Libba, who would have been up there as well. He just it could have easily been a very different story. And fortunately for them, or fortunately for us, I should say, Doggies kicking, the 13 behinds obviously kept us in it. Would have been a very different story if they kicked straight. So, but we'll take the win.
Yeah.
I'd fucking hope that there's a lot of learnings to come out of this week, because it shouldn't take a belting
Mm.
from Port Adelaide to get us to come back like that, you know? So, yeah.
I'll actually flash it up on screen. Port Adelaide has been a bit of a bogey side for both of us. I think the top five uh, consecutive wins between clubs, Port Adelaide has the most against Gold Coast, and it's something like 14 wins of the last
Yep.
14 games we've played, they've beaten us. But the last 9 times they've played Essendon, they've won.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys are on that list for North Melbourne, so you've beaten them the last 9 times you've played them, which you think about it, stems all the way back to that elimination final where they did get you. But then we're also on that list. So we're against Port on that list, and we're also against Melbourne on that list, both for losing consecutive ones. So
That's all right.
no, look, it's
I think North Melbourne are on that list twice as well. So yeah, so don't
yeah,
stress. You're not alone.
not the list you want. That's it. Not the list you want to be on, but the list that we are on is the top 8. We are there. You're not. So
Well, you
suck
pushed
it.
us out of it.
You
Yeah.
are sitting ninth. That's it. So you're there. You're there or thereabouts. I think if we just go back to our loss against GWS, I think they're playing really good footy. But like I said, I was really worried that we were going to rock up and get done by 10 goals more, almost like the GWS that I know can put that on. To only lose to them by, 20 odd points to the end. And that was probably 2 late sort of junk goals they got with a minute left on the clock. And we were around that 20-point margin all day. It really, and we sort of kept with them. It really gave me the confidence that actually, you know what, this season might be different. We're actually able to keep up with GWS, who have just, got the wood over us for a long time now. And then to roll into our win this week against Hawthorn, I know we were going to have Michael on the podcast. Clearly not. He's probably just sheltered up in a dark hole somewhere as Hawthorn look. I mean, West Coast even got their first win today, and Hawthorn are now below the worst coast Eagles because they stink, and yet, but even Hawthorn are below them. But like for us to come out, I think our biggest lead of the game was 58 points. So for us to then still win by 53, in my head, that's really un-Gold Coast-like. To actually build that lead and then hold on to that big win. We saw Richmond early in the year where we had this massive lead, let them back into the game. We sort of almost switch off, and it's like we're starting to grow this maturity. And one of the things I liked the most was in that last quarter, there was a few of our younger players as well. And I mean, Sam Cloesi, who's 2 games into his career, and he's had an absolute, just bang onto the scene. But even him, Will Graham, a few of our debutants, a few of our academy picks, late in the last quarter, when Hawthorn, the game was kind of done, and Hawthorn weren't really mounting a challenge, but kicked a couple of goals here and there, they were actually sticking their tackles. They were giving a bit of that, pushing and shoving after the disposal. They were showing a bit of that dog that Gold Coast never have had. We've never had that tougher side of our game. We've always had these flashy young kids and all this potential talent without actually having that sort of workhorse. And now we've got guys who are prepared to put their body on the line and actually make a difference. And I thought one big standout of that game was, while it didn't really affect the difference, there was a couple of moments in the first half where I saw Jed Walter, who's going to be a superstar. He's tall, athletic, and he moves well, kicks straight. But there's a few times where he was almost 2 or 3 meters off the contest, and it was either almost crumbing or the defender would get the ball and he'd just watch, and he wasn't quite getting himself into the game. He looked to step off it. And in the second half, there was maybe 3 times where he's there, chase down tackles, he's putting the extra second, third efforts on. And clearly someone said something to him, but it's like these young players, even though they look great already and they're helping us win games, it's things like that you go, okay, there's still so much room for growth. So very exciting. I thought, again, I was running through the stats before. We absolutely smashed Hawks, every single area we beat them in. But what I thought was really telling or really good for us was that it was literally 0 minutes in front. And you and I spoke about this at the start of the year, I think even episode 1, that both our teams struggle to play when they're the favourites. So for us to be the favourites going in, rock up and actually win, clearly I'm a happy boy at the moment. So no, we're in the top 8. We've won more than we've lost.
Yeah.
Happy days for Gold Coast, and yeah. So no, that's been the weeks. Obviously, we now need to look forward. I
Yeah.
remember we were talking about your run of games up to Anzac Day. So you guys you've done well
Yep.
to get through. Well, obviously, Dogs beat them, beat Saints, lost to Port. So you're 2-1 through this time. Adelaide, they seem to look better. Obviously, beating Carlton on the weekend,
Yeah.
and it depends what midfield they rock up with. I think we were lucky to catch them with all their slow bodies. And this week against Carlton, they put all their young quick fellas in there and suddenly looked really good. You're going back to the Adelaide Oval where you got smashed by Port. What do you think your chances are, knowing that while Adelaide hasn't looked good, 1-5, 1-4, whatever they
Something
are,
like that.
they're a bit like a wounded animal now, and they're starting to find their mojo. And getting Carlton away on the weekend, yeah, this might be a danger game for you guys again.
And this is exactly where I sort of draw my concern as an Essendon faithful. It's just history repeating where you get the
Mm,
upset win, the next week you become the favourites, and then you throw that chance away. So
yeah,
I very much see us. I don't think we're actually the favourites going into this week, but there's probably going to be a lot of people saying that we should win this game, and rightfully so. We probably should. We have a fairly good track record when we play Adelaide in Adelaide. Definitely not Port. But at the same time, we've got the team to do it. And at the end of the day, it's I guess it's a battle of the forwards in my mind because I think with our back line, we've always struggled against your Tex Walkers of a strong and big forward line. So to have Mackay back there as a little bit of an added piece of defense, hopefully that sort of subdues their forwards a little bit. But yeah, I think it's going to be very yeah, it's going to be very telling if we lose by a large margin. But I think they're the ones that hit us the most because I think that's what's ultimately cost us an eighth spot on the ladder. You guys won by 50 something points. Yeah, we won, but our percentage is still, I think, 90, and now that's cost us a top 8 spot. So I know we're still only round 5 or 4 or 5 or whatever it is,
mm.
but yeah, ultimately that's where we are. How about yourself?
Well,
You guys
yeah,
have
because
got
you can't. Yeah, well, I was just going to say, yeah, you can't play catch up with that percentage
mm,
in the last 5 games of the season. You're right. You do have to build it over the year. And when
mm,
you lose, you want to lose close. And when you win, you want to win big. So,
yeah,
yeah, unfortunately for you guys, you did have a 40-point lead against the Dogs and they crawled it back to 30. Still a good percentage booster because they didn't score much. But yeah, to have such a bad loss against Port, at least if you rock up to Adelaide and you can keep it a tight game, win,
mm,
lose, or draw, you at least want to just not get blown out on the scoreboard and have someone sort of just, like you say, manhandle the game. I think it's going to be a pretty big and tough atmosphere for you guys to handle. But
mm.
yeah, we'll see how the Essendon edge goes, or if it's just going to be Essendon heart attacks again because the
Oh
Essendon
boy.
ECG because yeah, you guys they're putting you through your paces at the moment.
Oh yeah. And how about yourself? You got Sydney in Sydney this week.
Yeah, so I think when we had Stuart Jew, yeah, the ex Sydney assistant coach, we seem to play the SCG almost better than our home ground. But they're looking really good this year.
Mm,
I know they got done by Richmond and then Richmond got done by Eagles today. So that's sort of one of those anomalies. But I think Sydney, the stat popped up that game that they haven't won for the last 12 times they've played in the MCG. So, I mean, they
right.
could have played, you know, the reservoir under 12s of the G and they'd still get done. Like they're not clearly used to the ground and they're not too good at playing
Yeah.
for whatever reason that is. But I think playing them in the SCG, yeah, again, I don't like our chances, but again, we don't have to win. And this is where we saw it against GWS the other week. If we can be within that 2-3 goals all game, keep that pressure on, you never know what happens late. I think we saw Adelaide against Carlton on the weekend. Start of the game, seven goals straight, 8 goals straight. And you go, well, when you're playing away against a team that should beat you, you start with 7 or 8 goals straight, you're really in that position to then strike. I can see us, unfortunately, we don't really kick straight early on, and then that sort of, we're always playing behind the 8 ball. But if we can stick within 2 or 3 goals of them, even if we then lose by 4 or 5, I'd be happy with that result again. If we can nag the win, again, that would be absolutely amazing, because we do go to Eagles the week after that, and then Brisbane the week after that. And I think Brisbane are going to start to figure themselves out. And they sort of towel us in Q clashes pretty often. But no, look, like we said at the start of the year, Sydney are a better team than us, and I'm okay with that. They've got a lot of good players, and they seem to be getting it right. They don't have injuries at the moment. They're getting Taylor Adams in. Brodie Grundy's changed how they look. So, no, I do expect a loss, but an admirable loss for me would be a good one to then take us to 3-3. You beat Eagles 4-3, lose the Lions 4-4, and at least your season's still on par, hitting what we would call, both Gold Coast and Essendon supporters, the absolute cliff of the last probably 4 years is that midway point of the season where we look okay, spirits are up, and then we just all fall off. But hey, I got to have at least some hope before we absolutely fall off. So before we go tonight, just give us a standout. What uniform are you wearing tonight? You want to do a little plug for the
the aptly named
for the boys?
The aptly named Master Batters. We've we've decked ourselves out with some nice hot pink. Looks good on the indoor court. Only as good as you are the person wearing it. And fair to say, the skills don't match the outfit. So that's all right. It is.
Is it matching pants as well?
No,
pants as well?
No, I've got no pants on. So
the late night podcast.
Yeah. And there you go, a cheeky little advertisement for over here, Cafe in Camberwell. There you go, one of our officially unofficial sponsors.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll hit them up. They can give me some free coffees.
That's it. Well, now they're going to get so much more business from this podcast and that shirt alone.
Yeah.
And then finally, weight loss this week. How's the journey going?
I forgot to update my YouTube channel, actually. But I lost about 300 grams, and given the fact that I had about 400 grams of chocolate in the day leading up to it, I'm happy with where I left off.
If you'd lost 700, you've put that 400 straight back on.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. Yeah. Not to mention the probably 10 kilos of chocolate that I had over the actual Easter weekend. We'll leave that aside.
Yeah.
No, but I completely forgot to upload this week's video.
Where can we find it if you want to direct some people that way?
You do like a little fucking, I don't know, what's the thing?
Link. I'll link it up.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, link it up. There you go.
That's a good to know. Good plug.
Yeah.
Link in the description below.
Yeah.
And like any good mate, I will say that time is ticking down. You gotta start getting a wriggle on, because what was it, 52 kilos, 52 weeks?
Yeah.
We're April, so we'd be almost 16 weeks into the year.
I'm 12 weeks into when I started doing the weight loss, and I've lost just under 7 kilos. So I'm doing all right, looking positively. But
you're doing an Essendon, playing from behind.
Well, that's the thing. Let's just hope I don't go the way the Essendon's going to go, and let's actually do something about that. So thankfully, that's something I can control. So,
Well, and that is it, mate. So look, for another week of uncontrollable footy nightmares, as we'll say, and lots of worry and stress. Thanks for the chat again, and we'll hopefully, we might have to push the podcast back a week if we both lose. That's the trend now. But otherwise, Rick, it's been a pleasure chatting to you. As always, like and subscribe to everyone out there, and have a good night.
Sounds good, mate. You enjoy your night as well, and we'll see you next week.
Well, cheers, Rick.